Hi there, beautiful souls. I recorded a video at the end of last week about the dark night of the soul, and I wanted to elaborate a little more on that. You see, the journey of life begins and ends the same for everyone. The difference is how we play out our lives along the way. Throughout our lives, we are given opportunities to learn and to grow, usually in the form of some sort of challenge or chaos. These things, they're not sent to punish us, but to develop us. This is what we need to grow. We are never, ever sent anything that we can't handle. We do have within us all that we need. So within our heart center, there is a power that no challenge can defeat. You just need to go within. And it's not always the easiest journey, but it's a journey that is so extraordinarily rewarding for you. It requires facing your own demons, being completely honest with yourself. However, as you navigate your way to the heart, there is, I promise you, so much growth, so much learning. And you find that you actually lose an aspect of your ego, but it's an aspect of your ego, of yourself, of your identity that needs to go in order for you to step up and be more powerful than you ever knew was possible. The journey to something more begins with some form of chaos. Something will happen to us or around us to force us to ask some really deep questions, because we begin to feel very disconnected from everything. We begin to feel as though, there's some level of unworthiness that creeps in. Everything in our lives is usually questioned during a dark night of the soul. But this chaos, this dark night, is what instigates change. When we're comfortable, we don't think about change. We don't think about growth. So it's in the discomfort that most of the growth will happen for us. And the chaos has always been a driving force for evolution. It's how everything on the planet evolves. There comes a time when we're forced to realize that we can't keep doing things the same way and expect a different result, that we need to, set on an inward journey to find our true selves. We must grow, we must evolve. So just like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, most people I know have seen The Wizard of Oz, and if you haven't seen it after I've explained the messages and the symbology in this movie, you're going to want to watch it again, and this time you'll see it through new eyes. So just like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, we need our own crisis to wake up. It's a call that sets us out on a journey, and that journey is into the heart center. The Wizard of Oz is now, over 100 years old, and it's a timeless movie. It's something that everybody can connect with no matter what age. So, as I mentioned, it's over 100 years old, and it strikes a chord in everyone's heart. The movie so beautifully contains timeless truths about our journey of life and the power of the head and the heart. Now, I often talk about the importance to have head and heart alignment. I talk about it in all my classes, my trainings, my workshops, my videos. But when we are aligned, there is flow. And this story does talk about the importance of that. The story begins with Dorothy, short for Dorothea, feeling, she was an orphan child, right? But she's wishing that she was somewhere else, that, here isn't good enough, that she wants to be somewhere over the rainbow. That whole story that we have about the grass being greener on the other side, that when I have that, I'll feel happier. When I'm over there, I'll feel happier. I just want to be there. These stories that we constantly tell ourselves, right? So she asks her heart center, represented by her dog, Toto, do you suppose there's such a place? Now, Toto in Latin actually means in total, everything. So Dorothy knows that you can't get there by train or by boat, or, she believes it's somewhere there. I believe it was somewhere, behind behind the moon, beyond the rain, or something like that. Right. So it's somewhere over the rainbow, somewhere mystical, somewhere else, but not here. So like most people, she thinks that everything she wants is outside of herself. So I want you to think about that. Do you spend your days pining or wishing for something outside of yourself? It's so important that we flip that around and understand that when we do the inner work, when we find it inside of us, we then radiate an energy and will therefore create it outside of ourselves. So getting back to Dorothy, the tornado chaos, which is the dark night of the soul, hits and it lifts that house, which is symbolic of the whole self. It lifts it up into the air and Dorothy hits her head. Now, I just want to focus on the house for a moment. Anytime you have a dream of a house, the house represents the self. And depending on what level of the house you're in, that can give us information about different areas of your life, your subconscious mind. So for instance, if you're dreaming about being in the basement, it's the deep subconscious aspect of yourself. The roof is the higher self. So the house represents the self. This house is lifted into the air. Dorothy knocks her hair, so she's therefore unconscious. She's transported into a different aspect of herself, into an inner world. And in this inner world, she will receive an opportunity to discover her real self. So more often than not, it does take the hard knocks before we even consider taking such a journey. And of course, Dorothy, she arrives in Munchkinland, right? Where she famously says, Toto, I have a feeling that we're not in Kansas anymore. Toto, her constant companion, her heart, is with her. He's her intuition, and he reminds her along the way that everything she needs is within her. But she doesn't know it yet, and she's not even prepared to hear it yet. Dorothy is then met by two witches. The Wicked Witch, which symbolises, or Wicked Witch of the West, which symbolises our ego, that sabotaging part of ourselves, the part that tries to control us through fear and deprives us of our power. So that's the ego. The ego wants to keep you stuck. The ego wants to keep you fearful. The ego wants to believe that you can't have it all. And then there's this other part of us, Glinda. Glinda, the good witch of the north, and she represents guidance. Our guidance is always there. Actually, quick tip on my middle name is actually Glenda, very close to Glenda. And it was interesting because somebody had said to me years ago, Glenda is in the good witch. So apparently I have a little bit of that in me. Anyway, it's a whole other story, because if I told you what my name almost was, you'd be teasing me for life. Anyway, so our guidance is always there, but it allows us to make our own discoveries, our own choices. And together, both of these witches, they represent our shadow and our light. We are all things. How we choose to play things out is entirely up to us, but we are all things. So Dorothy arrives in Munchkinland and she's blessed with the gift of the ruby shoes, that's right. And she is told to never let the shoes off her feet, meaning always walk in faith. Never let go of your passion, never let go of your purpose. Don't get so focused on what you should do rather than what you are meant to do or born to do. You can make anything happen as long as you walk in faith, not fear. Remember, the ego is the fear. The ego wants to keep you stuck, held back, wants you to hang on to those aspects of your identity that really don't serve you. But you see, Dorothy still has that power. She's unaware of it, but she has it. There's a calling, she's being pulled. Dorothy's journey, just like ours, entails finding parts of herself or aspects of herself that need transforming and to recognize her own power. For as long as we have incongruencies, so if there's a part of you that knows that you can step up, that you can be more and do more, then there's this other part of you that is fearful of it. For as long as you have those different aspects, you're being pushed and pulled in opposing directions. You're caught up in this tug of war. And no amount of work that you do, no healing can really work for you. That transformation cannot stick until we create congruency and bring those aspects of yourself together. Something, of course, we do in the CTC, but it's about bringing aspects of ourselves together so that we can move forward easily, freely, comfortably, and confidently. So Dorothy knows that she has to embark on this spiritual journey, which is symbolized by the yellow brick road. It's the path, right? If she wants to go home, she must stay on the path. She must go to the land of Oz. So her inner and outer worlds are now connected because the characters in the land of Oz reflect the life that she has in Kansas. Now, I'm not sure if you remember the movie, but the characters in the movie are in Oz, in the land of Oz, are the same as those back home in Kansas. So she's bringing in those aspects of herself, of her daily life, into her experience. And, you know, for us too, often the external world is a mirror of our internal world. And the moment we stop pointing the finger to blame everything and everyone around us and realize that we have three pointing back at ourselves, that there's something within me I can do to change this, the moment we put ourselves back in that position of responsibility and do the change work from the inside out, then everything outside of us changes. So the fact that the house, her whole self, landed on the Wicked Witch, okay, the Wicked Witch of the East, killing her, and now she wears the Wicked Witch's ruby shoes. That is symbolic of the fact that Dorothy was ready for her own independence. Just like us, it's time to grow, it's time to accept responsibility, to realize that we can be independent and that we can choose to be masters of our vehicle rather than the passive passenger. Although she was frightened, she was ready to wear those shoes, ready to walk the path and to do the inner work. Throughout our lives, we are sent opportunities in the form of crisis to prompt us to stop playing the role of victim, to accept responsibility for where we are, who we have become. And this requires taking that inward journey, being completely honest and healing those parts or healing those aspects of ourselves that are fragmented or incomplete. This is always the precursor to growth. So along the way, of course, Dorothy meets those aspects of herself, right? She meets we'll start with the scarecrow. She meets the scarecrow who represents her head, her intellect. She meets the Tin Man who represents the heart, her ability to have compassion and to love and maybe to see the world through new eyes, to come from a place of love, to come from a place, you know, or from the heart center, to love unconditionally. Then, of course, there's the cowardly lion who represents the will, her courage to make more empowered choices and to follow through. So Dorothy must overcome a number of challenges in order to find her true self as she ventures along that yellow brick road. The ego, the Wicked Witch of the West, she constantly tries to sabotage the journey, creating obstacles. Remember, the ego is what wants you to stay the same. So she creates these obstacles along the journey, trying to stop her from reaching the Emerald Palace, that the place of enlightenment. Okay, so the ego wants to stop you from getting there because when you get there, you're going to realize that you don't need it. So all these challenges have been put in place, right, by the Wicked Witch. Dorothy and her companions spot this beautiful palace off in the distance. And what do? Do you remember? They're meant to stay on the yellow brick road, but they decide to take a shortcut. They leave the yellow brick road. They run through the field. They go cross country through the poppy field. And what happens? She falls asleep under the spell of the poppies, symbolizing that there are no shortcuts. that sometimes, doing the work requires due diligence, and it takes time to integrate new learnings. You can't do it once and think that, you've mastered the art. This is about us having so much self-awareness that we continue to be aware of our thoughts, our feelings, to continue to recognize that we have a choice, that in every moment we can make a more empowered choice to keep our energy here in present time. But they kind of thought, this is cool, we'll take a shortcut, right? And they ran across a poppy field. It also symbolizes that sometimes we are given a test and we need to do things to pass the test. But also, sometimes we need to process things in an unconscious state. Okay, the test was stay on the road, stay on the yellow brick road. They made a run for it. She is now in a deep sleep and having to process things in an unconscious state. So finally, they arrive at Oz, only to find out that again, they've got to pass another test. Getting there wasn't enough. And they must, I'm trying to think back to what it was now, they must bring back the broom of the Wicked Witch. That's right. So they need to grab the broom of the Wicked Witch. And the whole idea with this is, the message here is to never become complacent, because there is always a test. There's always an opportunity for you to be who you say you are. Now, for those people that do a CTC session, I do say to my clients afterwards, be aware, because the universe does normally send you a test afterwards. Nothing big, bad and ugly, but there's an opportunity for growth. There's an opportunity for you to prove that you're not the person you were, and that you're now you have a new level of awareness. You're now going to make a more empowered choice. And the moment you make a more empowered choice, then that old pattern, that old habit is done. It's finished. So Dorothy goes off to get the broom, and she is captured by the Wicked Witch, symbolically weighed down by the ego and the role it plays in our lives, right? Keeping us stuck in fear and feelings of being alone and abandoned, and you're never really going to get anywhere, and, good health and success and wealth, it's not for you, and all this, self-talk and this stuff that just keeps pulling us back to how we used to be. So she feels alone, she feels abandoned. And this forces Dorothy to call on the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Lion for assistance. Basically, what she's doing, in essence, she's calling in, she's taking you on a journey, right? She's calling in on her own intellect, her own heart, and her own courage. The witch then sets the Scarecrow on fire, representing the ego trying to gain control of the mind. I want you to think back throughout your life. How often has that happened? How often has your mind gotten out of control and won when it comes to convincing you that you can't do something? So the ego has now set fire to the mind. Dorothy picks up a bucket of water and she throws that water over the Scarecrow, also getting the Wicked Witch, who does what? She melts away. So it's quite hilarious, isn't it, that something as simple and pure as water is all that was needed to be free of the witch's power. We usually believe that our problems are so big and so complex that they require a big and complex solution. But if we bring our problems down to their purest and simplest form, you'll realize that there is always a simple solution. I want you to remember that. There is always a simple solution. In fact, what I do when I feel stuck, whether, no matter what challenge is going on in my life, or even in therapy, right? If I hit a glitch, first thing I say is, I know there's a way. I know there's a way. There's always a way. Show me a way. I know there's a way. There's always a way. Show me a way. There's another affirmation for you. Another big mover shaker affirmation, right? I know there's a way. There's always a way. Show me the way. And I will repeat that over and over, and guarantee you something will just come. It will come to me and I will find a way. So there is always a way. Stop making your problems bigger than Ben-Hur, because I promise you, bring them down to simplest form, simple problem, simple solution. So now Dorothy is truly free. She's put the fire out. She's put the ego out. And she's now, a world that once frightened her has completely dissolved. The witch has completely dissolved. The ego is gone. And now she begins to see things extraordinarily differently. So once back at the Emerald City, the wizard is now exposed. You remember that scene with Toto, cute little puppy, pulling back the curtain? So Toto, her heart, he draws back the curtain. The heart reveals the truth. The heart is where the truth lies. It pulls back the curtain and basically showing that the wizard is just role-playing. That, giving her yet another opportunity to see that she really doesn't need anyone else, that she has everything that she needs within her. It's one thing to have done the work, to have gained wisdom, but true wisdom lies in the doing. I see so many people that tell me that they're doing the work and they haven't yet integrated it within themselves completely. So it's so important to realize that this is about who you are being in the doing. So extraordinarily important. I actually might do a video on that. So it's not what you know, but what you do with what you know that matters. The wizard obviously can't supply a brain and a heart, but the recognition of these qualities that already exist. The Tin Man received a mechanical heart to symbolize, the compassion that was already found. The Scarecrow received a diploma to recognize the intellect and the creativity already displayed. And the Lion received the medal in recognition of bravery, which he had shown. So Dorothy had finally developed and integrated these parts. We spoke about parts earlier, okay? These parts, these aspects of herself that had pushed and pulled her every now and then, right, were now integrated as one. She was now whole. But unfortunately, she still believed that only someone else outside of her can show her the way home. And then, of course, Glinda, the good witch, appears again. Her guidance. So her guidance arrives and she tells her, you had the power all along. You could have gone home anytime you wanted. You always had the power to go home. All you needed to do was believe, was close your eyes, to see herself at home already, to click her heels and to say, there's no place like home. There's no place like home. Dorothy then wakes up at home, but she's literally had her awakening. Her surroundings haven't changed. Nothing around her had changed, but she is fully transformed. She has awakened her heart center. And she knows that nothing can ever be the same again, because when you have a true awakening, when you go through your dark night of the soul, when you do the work, when you take that journey and you come out and you have that true awakening, absolutely everything in your life changes, and you cannot go back to how you used to be. She is a new person. She's grown physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And if it were not for her journey, she would not have found her whole self. So I want you to know that it's important to let the challenges of your journey be your opportunity to discover your whole self. How quickly you move through those challenges is up to you. How much power you lose to those challenges is up to you. How long you stay stuck there is up to you. The challenges will come for all of us. For as long as we're alive, there will continue to be challenges. But free will and choice is how you get there, how much power you lose, how long you stay stuck in there. And by simply being brave enough to take that inward journey, by simply opening yourself to the guidance, being prepared to let go of everything that you believe to be true, being prepared to let go of the fears of the ego, you can transform exceptionally quickly. You can discover your whole self. Remember, you have everything that you need within you. And when you heal those aspects of yourself that hold you back, then everything in your world must change. All you need to do is believe. So I want you to, have a think about some really deep questions, think about the patterns in your life, the patterns and the programs that you're playing, those things that keep on appearing for you, the limiting beliefs, the fears and emotions that surface, and the challenges that come with those. If you see these reoccurring patterns in your life, then you are being called to grow. And these reoccurring patterns can stop the moment you decide to see them for what they are. So have an awareness of them and take the journey. And I promise you, it will be one of the most rewarding journeys that you'll ever take. So love yourself, be kind to yourself, and know that you will always have within you everything that you need. The guidance is there, the wisdom is there. And you too can come out of your darkest moments having the most amazing transformation. If you have any questions, if you would like to reach out to me, feel free to comment or direct message me. But I am here for you to help you on your journey. Much love and blessings to you all. Mwah.